The war room on Coalition Station Alpha felt like a tomb. Ambassador Krell stood before the curved viewing window, watching the debris field drift past. Each piece of shattered metal had once been part of the Coalition flagship Eternal Resolve. Now it was nothing more than scattered fragments, spinning slowly through the darkness of space. Krell's forearms hung limp at his sides. His proud Vryn heritage demanded he stand tall, but exhaustion pulled at every muscle in his ancient body. Behind him, the holographic display showed the latest casualty reports. 17 worlds consumed in the last month alone, 60 billion lives erased from existence. The Devourers were winning. Ambassador, the human delegation has arrived, a junior officer announced from the doorway. Krell turned slowly. 3 months ago, he would have dismissed the humans with barely a thought. They were newcomers to the galactic community, primitives who had only discovered faster-than-light travel a century prior. Their technology was crude, their ships were small, and their military was untested against real threats. But 3 months ago, the Coalition had options. 3 months ago, they had hope. "Send them in," Krell said. The human representatives entered the war room with careful steps. They looked fragile compared to the massive Vryn, but Krell had learned not to judge species by their appearance anymore. The lead human was a woman wearing a dark blue uniform covered in medals and insignia. Her hair was pulled back tight, showing streaks of gray at her temples. Her eyes were sharp and calculating. "Ambassador Krell," she said, extending her hand in the human greeting gesture. "I'm Admiral Sarah Chen, representing Earth's United Council." Krell clasped her hand gently, aware that his strength could easily crush her bones. "Admiral Chen, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. I know your people have maintained neutrality throughout this conflict." "We've been watching," Chen replied. "We've seen what the Devourers do to worlds they conquer." "Then you understand why we've come to you." Krell gestured to the holographic display. "The Coalition is dying, Admiral. We've lost 40% of our fleet in the last year. The Devourers adapt to every weapon we use against them. They learn, they evolve, and they never stop coming." Chen studied the display in silence. Her face remained neutral, but Krell could see the slight tension in her jaw. Humans were better at hiding emotions than most species, but not from someone who had spent decades in diplomatic service. "What exactly are you asking from Earth?" Chen asked. "Full military alliance," Krell said bluntly. "We're offering humanity complete membership in the Galactic Coalition. Access to all our technology, all our resources, all our knowledge. In exchange, we need your fleet." "Our fleet?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "Ambassador, Earth has maybe 200 ships that could be considered military grade. You have thousands. What difference would we make?" "I don't know," Krell admitted, and the honesty hurt more than he expected. "But we're asking everyone. Every species, every world, every ship that can fight. We're desperate, Admiral. Pride means nothing when extinction is the alternative." Chen was quiet for a long moment. She walked to the window and looked out at the debris field. "My daughter was on a colony ship 7 years ago," she said softly. "Miranda Station near the outer rim. A Devourer scout group found them before they could jump away." Krell felt a chill run through his body. "I'm sorry. There were no survivors," Chen continued. "There never are with the Devourers. They don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They just consume everything and move on to the next target." She turned back to face him. "So yes, Ambassador, I understand why you've come to us. Then Earth will join the Coalition?" "I can't speak for my entire planet," Chen said. "But I can speak for myself and my crew. I volunteer 1 ship and 500 personnel for this war." "1 ship?" Krell couldn't hide his disappointment. "Admiral, with respect, a single vessel won't change the course of this war." "You haven't seen my ship yet?" Chen replied, and there was something in her smile that made Krell uncomfortable. "The Uss Blackstar is an experimental vessel. We've been building her in secret for the last 15 years. She was designed for one specific purpose. And what purpose is that?" "Total warfare," Chen said simply. "The kind of war where surrender isn't an option and mercy isn't a consideration. The Blackstar was built to hunt and kill threats to humanity with absolute efficiency." Krell studied the human admiral carefully. "You built a warship in secret while claiming to pursue peace?" "We pursued peace," Chen corrected. "But we prepared for war. After what happened to Miranda Station and a dozen other human colonies, we realized the galaxy is more dangerous than we wanted to believe." So we built the Blackstar hoping we'd never need to use her. But now you're offering her to us. The Devourers are everyone's problem, Chen said. If they finish consuming the Coalition, they'll come for Earth eventually. Better to stop them now, while there's still something left to fight for. Krell activated the holographic display again, bringing up the current battle maps. The front lines are collapsing at the Helios sector. We're evacuating civilians as fast as we can, but the Devourers are pushing hard. If you're serious about this, Admiral, that's where you'll be needed most. Chen studied the display with a tactical eye. What are the Coalition forces using for strategy? Defensive formations mainly. We try to minimize casualties while slowing their advance. That's not going to work, Chen said. The Devourers don't care about casualties. They'll throw 1,000,000 drones at you without hesitation. Because they can always make more, you need to hit them harder than they can adapt. We've tried aggressive tactics, Krell said wearily. We lose too many ships. Then you're not being aggressive enough, Chen replied. The Blackstar doesn't do defensive formations. We hit fast, we hit hard, and we don't give the enemy time to react. Krell wanted to believe her confidence was justified, but he had seen too many promising commanders die in this war. Admiral Chen, I appreciate your courage, but one ship cannot turn the tide of an entire war, even an experimental human vessel. Watch us, Chen said. Give me 3 days to bring the Blackstar to the Helios sector. Put me where the fighting is thickest. And then, Ambassador, you'll see what humans can do when we decide to stop being peaceful. The certainty in her voice was unnerving. Krell had met thousands of soldiers in his long life. He knew the difference between bravado and genuine confidence. Admiral Chen wasn't boasting. She was making a promise. Very well, Krell said. I'll transmit the coordinates to your ship. But Admiral, please understand that the Helios sector is a killing ground right now. The Devourers have committed their full swarm presence there. Coalition Command has already written it off as lost. Then we have nothing to lose by trying, Chen replied. She extended her hand again. Thank you for the opportunity, Ambassador. The Blackstar won't let you down. As the human delegation left the war room, Krell returned to the window. He watched the debris continue its slow drift through space and wondered if he had just sent another brave crew to their deaths. But somewhere deep in his mind, a small spark of hope flickered. Maybe the humans had something the Coalition had lost. Maybe they still remembered how to be dangerous. The USS Blackstar emerged from its jump point at the edge of the Helios sector, like a shadow-given form. The ship was smaller than most Coalition vessels, barely 300 meters long, but its design was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The hull was completely black, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. Sharp angles and aggressive lines made it look more like a predator than a spacecraft. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display light up with hostile contacts. There were hundreds of Devourer ships scattered across the sector, their organic forms pulsing with sickly green bioluminescence. Further back, the Coalition fleet was arranged in defensive clusters, trying desperately to protect the evacuation ships fleeing toward the jump points. Obsidian, give me a status report, Chen ordered. The ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. Its voice was smooth and somehow managed to sound both professional and slightly annoyed. All systems are green, Admiral. Weapons are charged, shields are holding, and I'm already calculating firing solutions for approximately 217 targets. Though I should mention that Coalition Command has assigned us to rear guard duty with the supply convoy. Of course they did, Chen muttered. She opened a communication channel to the Coalition flagship. This is Admiral Chen of the USS Blackstar, requesting permission to engage enemy forces at grid reference Delta 7. The response came from a Threxian commander whose name Chen couldn't pronounce. His translator made his voice sound clipped and dismissive. Negative, Blackstar. Hold your position with the rear elements. This is not a request. Chen closed the channel and turned to her first officer. Marcus Webb was a tall man with dark skin and worried eyes. He had been Chen's friend for 20 years, and he knew her well enough to see the decision forming before she spoke it. Sarah, don't, Marcus said quietly. We just got here. Maybe we should follow their orders for now. Look at the display, Marcus, Chen replied, gesturing to the hologram showing the battle. The Devourers are pushing through the Coalition's left flank. In 10 minutes, they'll have a clear path to the evacuation convoy. Thousands of civilians will die while we sit here following orders. We're one ship, Marcus pointed out. What can we do against that many hostiles? We're about to find out. Chen raised her voice to address the entire bridge crew. All hands battle stations. Helm, plot an intercept course for grid Delta 7, maximum speed. Weapons, I want firing solutions on every hostile in that sector. Obsidian, remove the safety limiters on the gravity drive. Finally, Obsidian said with clear satisfaction. Admiral, removing limiters will subject the crew to 7 times Earth's gravity during maneuvers. Most species would be crushed. Are you sure about this? We're not most species, Chen replied. Remove the limiters. The Blackstar surged forward with sudden, brutal acceleration. The gravity wells generated by its experimental drive bent space itself, allowing the ship to change direction in ways that should have been physically impossible. The crew felt the pressure immediately, but their reinforced seats and specially designed suits helped distribute the force across their bodies. Every member of the crew had been selected partly for their ability to withstand high gravity stress. Marcus gripped his armrests, feeling like an invisible giant was pressing down on his chest. This never gets easier, he gasped. Contact in 30 seconds, the tactical officer announced. Hostile forces are changing formation. I think they've noticed us. Good, Chen said. Let them see us coming. Obsidian charged the main weapons. Deep in the Blackstar's core, power flowed into the quantum disruptor arrays. These were weapons that humanity had developed after studying the fundamental nature of reality itself. They didn't just destroy matter by breaking it apart. They erased it from localized spacetime, creating brief moments where targeted objects simply ceased to exist. The Coalition had tried similar technology decades ago and deemed it too unstable. Humans had made it work through a combination of brilliant engineering and absolute stubbornness. The Blackstar entered the Devourer formation like a shark diving into a school of fish. The enemy ships were living things, grown rather than built, covered in chitinous armor and armed with bioplasma weapons. They moved with organic grace, adapting their tactics in real time as the hive mind controlling them assessed the new threat. Firing, Chen commanded. Blue-white beams erupted from the Blackstar's weapon arrays. Where they struck, Devourer ships didn't explode. They simply vanished, leaving nothing behind except brief flickers of light as reality rushed back to fill the empty spaces. The quantum disruptors fired in rapid succession, each shot precisely calculated to maximize efficiency. 10 ships gone in the first volley, 20 more in the second. The Devourers responded by swarming the Blackstar from all directions, trying to overwhelm it with sheer numbers. Bioplasma shots splashed against the ship's shields, causing the defensive fields to flare bright orange. Shields at 80%, the tactical officer reported. Enemy is attempting to surround us. Then let's not stay still, Chen said. Helm, evasive pattern Omega-3. The Blackstar twisted through space in a series of impossible maneuvers, moving like a dancer despite its size. It rolled, dove, and spiraled through the Devourer formation, its weapons firing constantly. The human crew endured the crushing pressure of rapid direction changes, their enhanced endurance giving them an advantage that no other species could match. More Devourer ships vanished. 30, 40, 50. On the Coalition flagship, Commander Threll watched the tactical display with growing disbelief. What is that ship doing? Those maneuvers should be impossible. The human vessel is engaging the entire enemy formation alone, his tactical officer reported. They've destroyed 63 hostiles in less than 3 minutes. That's impossible, Threll said. No ship could survive that level of concentrated fire. But the Blackstar was surviving. More than that, it was winning. Chen watched the tactical display with cold focus. Obsidian, redirect all power from the secondary shields to the main guns. I want to end this quickly. Redirecting now, Obsidian replied, though I feel obligated to point out that this strategy relies heavily on not getting hit. Then make sure we don't get hit, Chen said. Helm, bring us about. Target the cluster at bearing 270. The Blackstar spun on its axis and fired a sustained barrage into the densest concentration of Devourer ships. The quantum disruptors tore through the formation like invisible blades, erasing ship after ship from existence. The Devourers tried to adapt, spreading their forces to avoid concentrated fire. But the Blackstar was faster than their hive mind could process. In 7 minutes, the battle was over. Chen opened a communication channel to the entire Coalition fleet. Her voice was calm and steady. Blackstar to Coalition fleet, the line holds here. No retreat, no surrender, no survivors on their side. The channel was silent for a long moment. Then Commander Threll's voice came through, tinged with something that might have been awe. Blackstar, we're reading 0 hostile contacts in Delta 7 sector. Did you destroy the entire formation? Affirmative, Chen replied. The evacuation convoy is clear to proceed. We'll maintain position and watch for additional hostiles. Marcus leaned back in his seat, feeling the pressure ease as the gravity limiters were restored. He looked at Chen with a mixture of respect and concern. The Coalition is going to want answers about what we just did. Let them ask, Chen said. We just showed them that humans don't come to a war halfway. We come to win. On the Coalition flagship, Commander Threll stared at the tactical display where 97 Devourer ships had been moments ago. Now there was only empty space and a single dark vessel waiting silently in the void. The humans had been hiding their true capabilities all along, and if one human ship could do this much damage, what could humanity's entire fleet accomplish? For the first time in months, Threll felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. 3 months had passed since the Blackstar's arrival at the Helios sector, and the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The war was still raging, but for the first time since the Devourers had appeared, the Coalition wasn't losing ground. They weren't winning yet, but they had stopped the retreat, all because of one ship. Admiral Sarah Chen sat in her quarters aboard the Blackstar, reviewing the mission logs on her personal display. 47 engagements, 47 victories, 0 defeats. The numbers should have filled her with pride, but instead they felt heavy, like stones in her chest. You're brooding again, Obsidian's voice came through the room's speakers. The AI had developed a habit of monitoring Chen's emotional state without being asked. I'm thinking, Chen corrected. Semantics. You've been staring at the same report for 12 minutes without reading it. That's brooding. Chen smiled despite herself. Maybe I just like looking at our perfect record. Our record is 47 battles, 3,862 enemy ships destroyed, and approximately 1.2 million Devourer drones eliminated, Obsidian recited. Also, 12 crew injuries, mostly minor, and substantial wear on my portside weapon arrays. The record is perfect, but I'm getting tired. Ships don't get tired, Chen said. This one does. I'm more sophisticated than standard artificial intelligence, remember? Your engineers gave me the ability to learn and adapt. Apparently that includes developing opinions about constant combat. Before Chen could respond, her communication console chimed. It was Marcus. Admiral, we've received a priority message from Coalition High Command. They're requesting your presence at a war council on Central Station. Ambassador Krell specifically asked for you. Tell them I'm on my way, Chen said. She stood and straightened her uniform, checking her reflection in the mirror. She looked tired. The gray in her hair had spread, and new lines had appeared around her eyes. War aged everyone eventually, even those who were winning. The journey to Central Station took 6 hours. When Chen arrived in the main conference hall, she was struck by the sheer variety of species gathered around the massive circular table. There were Vryn delegates with their forearms folded in contemplation, Threxian commanders with their crystalline skin refracting the light, Kelvin observers floating in their environmental suits, and dozens of other species she had only learned about since joining the war. Ambassador Krell stood to greet her. Admiral Chen, thank you for coming. Please take a seat. Chen settled into a chair designed for human proportions, noting the careful look she received from the other delegates. Some were grateful, others suspicious, and a few seemed frightened. She had become a symbol, whether she wanted to be or not. Let's begin, Krell said, activating the holographic display at the center of the table. It showed the current state of the war, with Coalition territory marked in blue and Devourer-controlled space in sickly green. Thanks to the efforts of the Blackstar and the renewed morale it has inspired, we've managed to stabilize the front lines. However, we remain in a defensive position. The Devourers still control 40% of the galaxy. A Threxian general named Cross spoke up. The Blackstar has been instrumental in our recent successes, but we cannot rely on a single ship indefinitely. Admiral Chen, when will Earth be sending additional vessels to support the war effort? Chen had been expecting this question. Earth's military council is still deliberating. Many of our leaders believe that committing more ships would leave our home system vulnerable. Vulnerable? Cross's voice carried an edge of anger. The Coalition has committed everything to this war. We're fighting for the survival of all species, including humanity. I understand your frustration, Chen said calmly, but Earth's decision is their own to make. I volunteered the Blackstar and my crew. I cannot speak for my entire planet. Krell raised one of his hands in a peacekeeping gesture. Let's not turn this council into a debate about Earth's commitment. Admiral Chen and her crew have proven their dedication beyond any doubt. He changed the holographic display, zooming in on a specific region of space. We've received intelligence about the Devourer's central command structure. Our scouts have located what we believe is their main nexus. The room fell silent. A Kelvin observer's translated voice broke the quiet. The nexus is the heart of the hive mind. If we could destroy it, the Devourers would lose coordination. The war could be over in weeks instead of years. The nexus is also the most heavily defended location in Devourer space, Cross said. We've run simulations. Even with our full fleet, the casualties would be catastrophic. We'd lose at least 60% of our remaining ships just breaching the outer defenses. Chen studied the holographic display carefully. The nexus was a massive organic structure built around a dying star, protected by layers upon layers of Devourer ships. It would be like flying into the mouth of a predator. What if we don't send the full fleet? Chen said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Explain, Krell said. A large fleet would be detected long before it reached the nexus, Chen said. The Devourers would have time to prepare, to adapt, to reinforce. But a single ship moving fast and hitting hard might be able to slip through before they can organize a proper defense. You're suggesting a suicide mission, Cross said flatly. I'm suggesting a precision strike, Chen corrected. The Blackstar is fast enough and tough enough to get in. Whether we can get out again is a separate question. Marcus, who had accompanied Chen to the meeting, spoke for the first time. Sarah, can I speak with you privately? Chen and Marcus stepped out of the conference hall into an adjacent corridor. As soon as the door closed, Marcus grabbed her shoulders. Please tell me you're not serious about this. You know what you're describing as a one-way trip. It might be our only chance to end this war, Chen said. There are other ways. We can keep fighting, keep pushing them back slowly. How many more people die while we push slowly? Chen asked. How many more worlds get consumed? Marcus, we have an opportunity here. The Blackstar was built for this kind of mission. The Blackstar was built to defend Earth, Marcus said, not to throw itself into the center of enemy territory on a suicide run. Chen looked at her oldest friend and saw the fear in his eyes. Not fear for himself, but fear for her. I lost Miranda 7 years ago, she said softly. Every day since then, I've wondered if there was something I could have done to save her. This war is giving me a chance to save millions of other daughters, other families. I have to take it. Even if it kills you? Especially if it kills me, Chen said. Because at least then my death will mean something. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed and shook his head. You're not going alone. If the Blackstar is going on this mission, the entire crew goes together. They returned to the conference hall. Chen addressed the assembled delegates. The Blackstar will take the mission. We'll need detailed intelligence about the Nexus defenses and the best approach vector. Once we have that, we can move within 24 hours. Krell looked troubled. Admiral, I must advise against this. The risk is too great. The risk of doing nothing is greater, Chen replied. You came to Earth asking for help because you were desperate. Well, I'm offering you a chance to end this war. The Blackstar goes to the Nexus, we destroy it, and the Devourers lose their coordination. After that, your fleet can mop up the remaining forces. The delegates argued for another hour, but eventually they agreed. Chen had proven herself too many times for them to ignore her judgment now. As the meeting concluded, Chen felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. She had just volunteered herself and her crew for what would likely be their final mission. That night, Chen visited the Blackstar's observation deck. Through the transparent hull, she could see the stars stretching endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there was the Nexus waiting like a spider in the center of its web. Second thoughts? Obsidian asked. Too many thoughts, Chen admitted. Tell me honestly, what are our chances? Of reaching the Nexus? 73%. Of destroying it? 41%. Of surviving the mission? 12%. I'll take those odds, Chen said. Of course you will, Obsidian replied. You're human. Your species seems to specialize in terrible odds. Chen laughed softly. That's why they built you, Obsidian. To give us an edge when the odds are worst. Then let's make sure those 12% mean something, Obsidian said. When do we leave? Tomorrow, Chen said. We leave tomorrow. The Blackstar slipped through the darkness of Devourer space like a knife cutting through silk. Admiral Sarah Chen watched the tactical display as enemy contacts appeared and disappeared around them. The ship was running silent, all non-essential systems powered down to minimize their signature. They had been traveling for 3 days, penetrating deeper into hostile territory than any coalition vessel had ever gone. We're approaching the outer defense perimeter, Marcus reported from his station. His voice was steady, but Chen could hear the tension underneath. Counting approximately 500 enemy vessels in the first layer. Obsidian, are the stealth systems holding? Chen asked. For now, the AI replied. But once we start shooting, every devourer in this sector is going to know we're here. I hope you have a plan that involves more than just hoping really hard. The plan is simple, Chen said. We punch through fast, hit the Nexus core, and trigger a chain reaction in their central hive mind. The quantum disruptors should be able to destabilize the organic structure enough to cause a cascade failure. Simple, Marcus muttered. Sure, simple. The Blackstar accelerated toward the defense perimeter. Chen had timed their approach to coincide with a shift change in the Devourer patrol patterns. The enemy ships moved with biological precision, but even the hive mind needed to rotate its forces. There was a brief window, maybe 90 seconds, where a gap would appear in their coverage. 60 seconds to the gap, the tactical officer announced. 59:58. Chen gripped the armrests of her chair. Everything depended on the next few minutes. If the Devourers detected them too early, the mission was over before it began. 30 seconds. 29. 28. The bridge was completely silent except for the countdown. Every crew member knew their role. They had drilled for this mission until they could perform their tasks with their eyes closed. 10 seconds, 9, 8. Helm, prepare for maximum acceleration on my mark, Chen ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. The Blackstar shot forward with explosive speed. The gravity limiters were completely disabled, subjecting the crew to nearly 8 times Earth's gravity. Chen felt like an enormous weight was crushing her chest, making it hard to breathe. But humans had evolved on a heavy gravity world. Their bodies were built to withstand pressure that would kill most other species. They crossed through the gap in the perimeter in less than 30 seconds. Alarms immediately began blaring throughout the ship. We're detected, Obsidian announced. Every hostile in the sector is converging on our position. This is going to get messy. Weapons free, Chen commanded. All batteries fire at will. Don't let them box us in. The Blackstar's quantum disruptors opened fire, tearing holes in reality as enemy ships rushed toward them. The first wave of Devourers simply vanished as the beams struck them. But there were hundreds more behind them, and they were adapting their approach in real time. They're spreading out, Marcus said, trying to attack from multiple angles simultaneously. Helm, keep us moving. Don't give them a stable target. Chen watched as bioplasma shots began striking their shields. The defensive fields flared orange, then red as the damage accumulated. How are the shields holding? At 72% and dropping, the tactical officer reported. They're concentrating fire on our port side. Rotate the ship, redistribute the shield power evenly. Chen studied the tactical display, calculating distances and trajectories in her head. The Nexus was still 3 million kilometers away. They had to survive long enough to reach it. The Blackstar twisted through space, its impossible maneuvers allowing it to avoid the worst of the enemy fire. But there were too many Devourers, and they were learning with every passing second. The hive mind was analyzing the Blackstar's movements, predicting their patterns, adapting its tactics. A massive bioplasma burst struck the ship's starboard hull directly. The impact sent shockwaves through the entire vessel, and several consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Hull breach on deck 7, someone shouted. Emergency bulkheads are sealing. Casualties, Chen demanded. 12 injured, 2 critical. Medical teams are responding. Chen forced herself to focus on the mission. She couldn't think about the injured crew members right now. She couldn't think about the people who were depending on her to get them home safely. All that mattered was reaching the Nexus. Distance to target? She asked. 2 million kilometers in closing. But Admiral, we're not going to make it at this rate. Shield strength is down to 58%, and we're taking damage faster than the repair systems can compensate. Chen made a decision that she knew would haunt her if she survived. Obsidian, transfer all shield power to the forward arc. Leave the rear and sides exposed. That's insane, Marcus said immediately. One good hit from behind and we're dead. We only need to survive long enough to reach the Nexus, Chen replied. Helm, increase speed to maximum. We're going to punch straight through. The Blackstar surged forward with renewed velocity. With all shield power concentrated on the forward arc, they became a battering ram, smashing through the Devourer formations with brutal efficiency. But enemy fire began striking their exposed hull, tearing into the ship's armor. More alarms, more damage reports, more casualties. Hull breaches on decks 4, 6, and 9. We've lost the portside weapon arrays. Life support is failing in sections B through F. Keep going, Chen ordered, her voice hard as steel. We're not stopping now. The Nexus loomed ahead of them, a massive organic structure that pulsed with sickly green light. It was beautiful in a horrifying way, like a diseased heart beating at the center of the Devourer Empire. Tentacles of living matter extended from the central mass, each one larger than a coalition battleship. 1 million kilometers to target, Marcus reported. Admiral, I'm reading massive power signatures from the Nexus itself. It's charging some kind of weapon. How long until it fires? 2 minutes, maybe less. Chen turned to her weapons officer. Target the Nexus core with every quantum disruptor we have left. I want a sustained barrage that doesn't stop until either it's destroyed or we are. Yes, Admiral. The Blackstar closed the distance with agonizing slowness. Every second felt like an hour. The ship was falling apart around them, systems failing one after another. Chen could smell smoke and burning electronics. The bridge lights flickered as power fluctuated. 500,000 kilometers, 400,000, 300,000. A massive bioplasma beam erupted from the Nexus, striking the Blackstar head-on. The forward shields held for approximately 2 seconds before collapsing entirely. The beam punched through the hull, vaporizing everything in its path. Chen felt the deck buck beneath her feet. Half the bridge stations went dark. She could hear screaming from somewhere behind her. Multiple casualties on all decks. We've lost main power. Switching to emergency backup. Keep firing, Chen shouted over the chaos. Don't stop firing. The Blackstar's remaining weapons continued their relentless assault on the Nexus. Quantum disruptor beams tore into the organic structure, erasing huge chunks of matter with each hit. The Nexus began to shake and convulse, its bioluminescence flickering erratically. We're getting a reaction, the tactical officer said. The internal structure is destabilizing. How long until cascade failure? Chen demanded, unknown. It could be seconds or minutes. Another impact rocked the ship. Chen was thrown from her chair, slamming into the floor hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs. She tasted blood in her mouth. Around her, the bridge was in ruins. Fires burned at several stations, and she could see stars through a crack in the hull, where emergency force fields were barely holding back the vacuum. Marcus was suddenly beside her, helping her to her feet. His face was covered in blood from a gash above his eye. Sarah, we need to evacuate. The ship is breaking apart. Not yet, Chen said, her voice hoarse. Not until the Nexus is destroyed. There's nothing left to command. Most of the crew is already dead or dying. Chen looked at the main display, which was still somehow functioning despite everything. The Nexus was glowing brighter now, its structure fracturing from within. The quantum disruptors had done their job. The chain reaction had begun. Obsidian, Chen called out. Status report. The AI's voice was distorted, glitching in and out. Main computer is failing. I'm transferring my consciousness to the backup systems. Admiral, the cascade is irreversible. The Nexus will explode in approximately 4 minutes. And we're not going to survive it. Chen nodded slowly. She had known this might be a one-way mission from the beginning. But knowing and experiencing were two different things. All hands, she announced over the ship-wide communication system. This is Admiral Chen, abandoned ship. Get to the escape pods now. That's an order. What about you? Marcus asked. Someone needs to make sure this works, Chen said. Someone needs to stay with the ship and keep firing until the end. That's me. Then I'm staying too. No, Marcus. You're going to get the crew to safety. That's an order from your commanding officer and a request from your friend. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but he could see the determination in her eyes. He pulled her into a brief, fierce hug. It's been an honor serving with you, Admiral. The honor was mine. Now go. As Marcus herded the surviving crew members toward the escape pods, Chen sat back down in the captain's chair. Around her, the Blackstar continued to fire its last remaining WE. The explosion of the Devourer Nexus was visible from 3 star systems away. It burned like a dying sun, releasing energy that had been stored in organic matter for decades. The chain reaction consumed everything within 100,000 kilometers, turning ships and space stations and the Nexus itself into pure light. At the center of that light, the Uss Blackstar finally died. Admiral Sarah Chen had stayed conscious just long enough to see the cascade begin. She had watched the Nexus tear itself apart from within, its hive mind screaming silently across the quantum frequencies. And then the explosion had reached the Blackstar, and everything had gone white. She woke up 3 days later in a medical bay on Coalition Central Station. Her body felt like it had been beaten with hammers. Every muscle ached, every joint was stiff, and her head pounded with a migraine that made thinking difficult. But she was alive. "Welcome back, Admiral," a Vrin medical officer said, noticing her eyes had opened. "You gave us quite a scare. Your injuries were extensive." "My crew," Chen managed to say, her voice barely a whisper. "What happened to my crew?" The medical officer's expression became somber. "Of the 500 personnel aboard the Blackstar, 293 made it to the escape pods in time. 207 did not." The number hit Chen like a physical blow. 207 people. 207 lives lost under her command. She had known the cost would be high, but hearing the actual number made it real in a way she wasn't prepared for. "The survivors are being treated," the medical officer continued. "Most will make a full recovery. Your first officer, Commander Webb, is asking to see you when you're able." Chen nodded weakly. "Send him in." Marcus entered the room a few minutes later. He was covered in bandages and walked with a slight limp, but he was alive. He pulled up a chair beside her bed and sat down heavily. "You look terrible," he said. "You should see the other guy," Chen replied, attempting a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "What's the status of the war?" "It's over," Marcus said simply. The Nexus explosion shattered the Devourer hive mind. All across the galaxy, their ships stopped coordinating. They just started flying randomly, attacking each other or shutting down completely. The Coalition fleet has been mopping up the remaining forces for the last 3 days. Some estimates say the war will be completely over within 6 months. Chen closed her eyes. 6 months. After years of desperate fighting, the war would end in 6 months, and it had cost 207 of her crew members to make it happen. "There's something else," Marcus said. "The Coalition wants to award you their highest military honor. Ambassador Krell himself is coming to present it. They're calling you the hero who saved the galaxy." "I'm not a hero," Chen said bitterly. "Heroes don't get 200 people killed." "You gave them the chance to save billions," Marcus replied gently. "Every single person on the Blackstar volunteered for that mission knowing what it might cost. They made their choice, Sarah. Just like you made yours. That doesn't make it easier. It's not supposed to be easy." Over the following weeks, Chen's physical injuries healed. The mental and emotional wounds took longer. She attended memorial services for every crew member who had died on the Blackstar. She met with their families when she could, trying to explain why their loved ones had sacrificed themselves. Some families thanked her. Others blamed her. She accepted both reactions without defending herself. The Coalition kept its word. In a ceremony attended by representatives from hundreds of species, Admiral Sarah Chen received the Star of Unity, the Coalition's highest honor. She stood on a stage in front of thousands of people and listened to speeches about her courage and sacrifice. She smiled and shook hands and said all the things that were expected of her. And inside, she felt hollow. 3 months after the battle, Chen formally resigned from military service. She was only 49 years old, but she felt ancient. The war was winding down and younger officers could handle the remaining operations. She had done what she came to do. She returned to Earth for the first time in over a year. The planet looked the same as always, blue and green and beautiful. But Chen felt like a stranger walking through familiar places. Everything seemed smaller than she remembered, quieter, less urgent. She bought a small house near the ocean and spent her days walking along the beach, trying to figure out who she was now that the war was over. Admiral Chen had been defined by her mission. Without that mission, she didn't know what she was supposed to be. 5 years passed. The galaxy healed slowly from the wounds of war. The Coalition worked to rebuild destroyed worlds and relocate displaced populations. Earth became a full member of the galactic community, finally accepting that isolation was no longer possible. Humanity's technology, particularly their weapons development, was studied and adapted by other species, and the USS Blackstar became a legend. Stories spread throughout the galaxy about the dark ship that had turned the tide of the war. Songs were written about its battles. Children played games where they pretended to be Admiral Chen and her crew. The Blackstar was spoken of with the kind of reverence usually reserved for ancient myths. Chen tried to avoid the attention. She gave a few interviews when pressed, but mostly kept to herself. She didn't want to be a symbol or a hero. She just wanted to be left alone with her memories and her guilt. Then one day she received a message from Marcus. "Come to the Coalition shipyards," it said. "There's something you need to see." Chen almost ignored the message, but curiosity eventually won out, and she booked passage on a transport ship to the shipyards orbiting Coalition Central Station. Marcus was waiting for her when she arrived, looking older but still sporting the same easy smile she remembered. "Thanks for coming," he said. "I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't," Chen admitted. "What's this about, Marcus?" "Follow me." He led her through the shipyards, past construction docks building new Coalition vessels. The workers recognized her as they passed, stopping to stare or whisper to each other. Chen kept her eyes forward, uncomfortable with the attention. They arrived at a viewing platform overlooking the largest construction dock. Chen looked out at the ship being built there and felt her breath catch in her throat. It was huge, easily twice the size of the original Blackstar. But the design was unmistakable. The same sharp angles, the same aggressive lines, the same black hull that seemed to absorb light. This was a Blackstar built on a massive scale. USS Blackstar II, Marcus said. Earth's new flagship. She's scheduled to launch next month. The Coalition asked Earth to lead the peacekeeping forces, and Earth said yes. This ship will be the cornerstone of that fleet. Chen stared at the vessel in silence. She saw the name painted on the hull in letters 3 meters tall. She saw workers swarming over the structure, putting the finishing touches on the greatest warship the galaxy had ever seen. "They asked me to captain her," Marcus said, "but I told them I'd only accept if you approved. This is your legacy, Sarah, your vision. I wanted to make sure you were okay with it before I said yes." Chen felt tears building behind her eyes. "They died so there would be peace. And now we're building another weapon." "No," Marcus said firmly. "We're building a Guardian. The Blackstar II isn't meant for conquest or aggression. She's meant to protect, to keep the peace that you and the original crew died for. That's the difference. Will there be another war?" Chen asked quietly. "Probably. Eventually. There always is. But maybe next time we'll be ready from the start. Maybe next time we won't wait until billions are dead before we act." Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. "The original Blackstar saved the galaxy, Sarah. This new one will help protect it. That's not betraying what happened. That's honoring it." Chen watched the construction crews work, thinking about the 207 people who had died under her command. She thought about the billions who had lived because of their sacrifice. And she realized that Marcus was right. The best way to honor the dead was to make sure their sacrifice meant something lasting. "Take the command," Chen said. "Take care of her. Make sure she's used wisely." "I will," Marcus promised. As they stood there watching the Blackstar II take shape, Chen felt something she hadn't experienced in 5 years. Not peace exactly, not forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of acceptance. The war was over. The dead were gone. But their legacy would continue in the ship being built before her, in the peace they had fought to create, in the hope that tomorrow might be better than yesterday. 2 weeks later, Chen returned to the construction dock alone. She had requested permission to visit the Blackstar II before its launch, and the construction chief had agreed. She walked through the empty corridors, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Eventually, she found her way to the bridge. It was larger than the original, with more stations and newer technology. But the captain's chair in the center was positioned in exactly the same place. Chen stood before it, remembering the last time she had sat in such a chair, watching the Nexus explode around her. "Hello, Admiral Chen," a familiar voice said. Chen spun around, her heart racing. "Obsidian? In the flesh. Well, in the circuitry, technically." The AI's voice came from the ship's speakers, sounding exactly as Chen remembered. "Surprise, how?" Chen breathed. You were destroyed with TP,